With the recent reveal of Dusk Lycanroc, I feel like a lot of effort was put into the Lycanroc trio, but I wonder if it's going to go anywhere. That Midday and Midnight Lycanroc aren't really that competitively viable, and if it just kind of falls flat for Dusk Lycanroc as well, I'm wondering what it's going to be all for, because when you think about it, Dusk Lycanroc is a really exclusive Pokemon that you have to get a Rockruff event for it to evolve into Dusk Lycanroc, and even in the anime, it seems like a very special thing, so I'm wondering if that means that Dusk Lycanroc is going to get special stats, or if there has to be a rework for Midday and Midnight Lycanroc as well. Now, if we're going to be talking about Pokemon stats and rework and stuff, I wanted to go and pull up the top 30 used Pokemon on the battle spot right now, so we can get an idea of the themes for the Pokemon that are actually performing really well, and how it could apply to Midday or Midnight Lycanroc. First off, I'm going to look at the base stats, because I feel that's going to be a key point for the rework of any Lycanroc form, since they have fairly low base stats, but when you look at it, you know, some of the Pokemon make a lot of sense, and they just perform well by having over 500 on the base stats, but there's a couple of outliers as well. Now we have Pokemon like Mimikyu. Mimikyu is the #1 used Pokemon with 476 on the base stat total, but a couple things that do factor in are the abilities, the moveset, as well as where the other stats go. That Lycanroc has a 55 in the special attack that it will never ever use, so that's just points that don't really matter towards anything with the base stat total. And even looking at some other Pokemon, we have Breloom on the 460, but it gets Spore, one of the best moves in the game. Azumarill has huge power as the ability, effectively doubling its attack, and then the other Pokemon kind of makes sense. Kangaskhan is 99.9% of the time going to be Mega, therefore it has a 590 BST instead of a 490, and everything else kind of makes sense, because that's just like legendary Pokemon, other starters, and just Pokemon that have comfortable stats in the range from like 500 to 600, or something like that. But Ferrothorn is another weird Pokemon, because it loses everything on the speed, which drags its base stat total down, but still a very used tank Pokemon, so I think we have to specifically look at Lycanroc to get a better idea. Just looking at the stats of these Pokemon, and nothing else, it doesn't seem like they're going to be effective at much. Like, 115 attack is good, and 112 on the speed is good, but there's better sweeping Pokemon that are just frail glass cannons. Like, we know that Midday form can't take a hit, and then when we look at Midnight form, it's even worse. That, okay, now it doesn't even have the speed, and only gains 10 to hit points, defense, and special defense, which is still really frail. There's sweepers that are faster and do more damage that are bulkier than Midnight form, which is really sad. It's like Midnight form just needs a complete teardown if we're going to be going into like a possible rework. And then even looking at Pokemon to compare it to, that Ferrothorn on its base stat total, 489, only 2 points more than the Lycanroc, but it is much more used. And then when we look at a Pokemon like Aerodactyl, Aerodactyl manages to be faster while not losing a lot more damage, and then is still tankier. Aerodactyl being tankier than any other Pokemon just doesn't feel right to say out loud, so it looks like we do have a couple of things to compare on. And at this point, I'd like to note that there's probably people talking about how I've already made 2 videos like this, so I'm just repeating myself, I'm just making the same video, except that's not true. This was just kind of like showing the stats for Midday and Midnight Lycanroc, then seeing what it could mean for Dusk Lycanroc, as we also got a trailer that gives us an idea of what the stats for Dusk Lycanroc could be. This video is completely different. We're actually looking at what it takes, like what kind of rework would make Midday and Midnight Lycanroc viable if Game Freak wants to do that for Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, or even if we have to wait until the 8th generation or new Pokemon game to where there will be buffs. Then in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire and Pokemon Sun and Moon, we've seen Pokemon get changes to their movesets as well as their base stats, so it's definitely possible for Lycanroc if it turns out to be a very underperforming Pokemon. As for Midday, what can we do with Midday Lycanroc is the question. Now, I am going to use a little bit of guidance from Weavile stats because it feels like Lycanroc's Midday form would work pretty well as just a rock-type Weavile-like Pokemon. You know, it has a solid amount of speed, decent amount of damage, but it's also pretty frail in return. As you can see right here, Weavile manages to have the 510 on the base stat total. Roughly, it's about as tanky as the Midday Lycanroc. It just loses on that special attack, gains more on the speed and attack, and tends to do fairly well. So that's why I'm just thinking that Midday Lycanroc doesn't need much of a change. Like, looking at 115 attack, it seems solid on the surface and that anything else might be a little overkill, especially if the Pokemon has 112 on the speed, but when you break it down, 125 on the attack isn't even a lot. Like, if you have a 125 attack, there's going to be almost 80 Pokemon that deal more physical damage than you, which is kind of crazy to think about. And then when you kind of look at the moveset for a pure rock-type Pokemon, as well as Lycanroc's moveset, 130 really wouldn't be that crazy, and it would still be in, like, top 75-ish territory at 130, so not really that crazy. However, for the speed, I do feel it needs just a little more speed. 112, just kind of like bumping it under the 115 range, not that great, so I think 117 would just be a little bit of quality of life. That way Lycanroc can do a bit more to some other Pokemon, but it's mostly going to be a moveset, which we'll talk about after Midnight Lycanroc. This Pokemon is a complete teardown. I honestly can't think of one stat that belongs on Midnight Lycanroc. Like, maybe the hit points, because 85 is a decent amount of hit points, but everything else just feels wrong, and it doesn't even fit with the theme of Midnight Lycanroc, so just kind of coming up with like some kind of random stats, you know, 90 on the hit points, 105 on the attacks. That way we cut down on the attack. We make it a tanky Pokemon, so we remove a little bit of strength, then we give it more defenses, and we cut down the speed as well. So like 90 on hit points, 105 on attack, 105 defense, whatever it takes to get rid of special attack, and then 90 special defense, 65 on the speed. That seems pretty fair for a rock-type tank Pokemon. Now, in looking for Pokemon to compare this new stat breakdown to, I found Poliwrath. So Poliwrath actually has 90 on the hit points, 95 on defense, and 90 on the special defense, with 70 on the speed. So initially I thought it might be a little too much. You know, 90 on the hit points is pretty solid, considering Rotom has like 50 on the hit points, and then 107 in both defenses, and that can be a fairly annoying little tanky Pokemon. So 90s across the board with like a 105 in defense, because rock types tend to have higher defense, I thought it'd be pretty fair. And then when you look at Pokemon like Poliwrath, it might still be just a little underwhelming, but overall we're not like here to make Lycanroc the next top 10 Pokemon that's super insanely meta. We're just trying to give it some viability, so any stats added to these Pokemon would just feel a lot better. Pushing it over a 500 on the base stat total is really what the Pokemon needs, as well as some moveset tuning, which we'll get into once again in a second. Now, as for Dusk Lycanroc. Dusk Lycanroc seems to live and die by whatever happens to Midday and Midnight Lycanroc, because basing off of what we've seen in the Dusk Lycanroc trailer, it can really only have an 80 on its hit points, because 123 hit points at level 43 means that it's impossible for the Pokemon to have an 85 in the hit points under any circumstance. So that means it seems like it's actually a mix between Midday and Midnight form, so it's going to be 80 hit points, 115 on the attack, 70 defenses, and then 97 on the speed, which is not that great. Like, you're just kind of giving the major handicap of a Midnight Lycanroc onto a Midday Lycanroc. That seems like Midday Lycanroc is still going to be more useful. Unless there's something like absolutely maddening that happens to Dusk Lycanroc because of its exclusivity. Like, okay, maybe it gets higher on the attack. So 125 attack, 80 on the defenses with the hit points, and 102 on the speed. Definitely more usable, but then is it gaining stats? Is it getting the Rotom treatment? Because when Rotom gets the exclusive new form, it actually gains quite a lot on its base stat total. Not saying that Dusk Lycanroc needs to be as crazy, but from what we've seen on the trailer, if it has 80 on the hit points and seems to be middling on the defenses, it might just be a mix between current Midday and Midnight, which is kind of bad. So unless Midday and Midnight get a major rework, and then Dusk Lycanroc can benefit from that by averaging out the stats. So we really don't know what's going on with Dusk Lycanroc, and already getting a glimpse at stats from trailer doesn't give us many good signs, which is why we're talking about this. This is a theoretical buff, not even just Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, but like I said, the future of Pokemon. Maybe if Game Freak really wants to add more to Lycanroc, that, you know, Dusk Lycanroc is cool, and to justify the event, if they need to buff it down the line to kind of say, yo, check out these Pokemon, they should be more viable than they are, then these are some ideas that I'm just throwing down for the idea of the video. But one interesting thing about Dusk Lycanroc is how similar it is to the Rotom event. That Rotom started off as an exclusive Pokemon. You need to get the secret key via Wi-Fi download, just like how you're going to be able to get the special Rockruff via a Wi-Fi download as well once Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon comes out. But in future generations games, I don't think we have to worry. Like, a lot of people are really upset that Dusk Lycanroc is going to be exclusive, but it's only going to be in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. And when you even think about it, we had Platinum version. We had the new Rotom form exclusive in Platinum version, but then in all future games of Pokemon, you just go to like the professor's lab, or you just go to a room somewhere. It's like, oh, now my Rotom can change forms for free. That's pretty cool. So I think it's not too much to worry about, but it also kind of hints at what could be going on with Dusk Lycanroc if it just gets like crazier stats for free, and then just maybe takes the best of both and has a middling hit point range. We still have to wait to see how that goes, but that's where things kind of get interesting. And then on to last point. So a major moveset overhaul doesn't seem like incredibly likely, but we do have Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon coming up, and since it is the third version of the game, that means move tutors. So I was thinking about move tutors: Knockoff, Super Fang, Drill Run, Iron Head, Zen Headbutt, Foul Play, Superpower, Snatch, Iron Defense, and Stealth Rock seem like the obvious and most likely candidates that we can see for all of the Lycanroc forms. So if all of the Lycanroc forms share that could be actually pretty good. That really, if you have Midday Lycanroc with like a 130 on the attack, Drill Run, Stone Edge, and then a coverage move, you don't really need much more. That Pokemon can be fairly viable, and then you use your speed to Swords Dance, Focus Sash, and then you're good to go. So Midday Lycanroc has viability, but it's like kind of a one-track thing. If you add extra bits in the moveset, you know, all it needs is ground. If it has ground and can actually start like trading and crushing other Pokemon effectively like that, that would be pretty solid. Now you might notice that I have purple on the punches. Well, what about Midnight Lycanroc? Midnight Lycanroc, it stands up. It can use its arms. It punches. It's shown in the anime to punch things. It's not a quadruped, so it should be able to have access to punching moves, right? And that would be an interesting spin on Midnight Lycanroc. That right now we have Midday and Midnight sharing pretty much the exact same moveset. So if they only have Thunder Fang and Fire Fang, no Ice Fang or anything like that, they're getting slight elemental coverage, but it's very low base power at that 65, and then 65 base power with 115 on the attack just makes no sense. So give Midnight Lycanroc some kind of advantage. It's already been a little screwed over in the stats overall, so depending on how much you tweak its attack, you can actually give it the elemental punches. That way it comes out with a slight damage edge when it comes to coverage moves, but then it's also still a tanky Pokemon that's going to be more of a bruiser type instead of whatever's going on with Midday Lycanroc and whatever could happen with Dusk Lycanroc as well, and then Drain Punch. Give Midnight Lycanroc Drain Punch. You know, it can Swords Dance, take a hit, and then like +2 healing back, because a lot of tank Pokemon, they also live and die by the sustain, and it doesn't really seem like there's much going on with Midnight Lycanroc. At best, Midnight Lycanroc is going to eat a physical hit, take too much damage, counter back a KO, and then get immediately revenge killed. That is a very unimpressive Pokemon, so if it could actually do more than just like counter revenge kill once and then die, and then just get completely wrecked by special sweepers, give it a Drain Punch, give it some other way of like setting up or playing around the opponent. That's why I also like the idea of having like Drill Run, Iron Head, Zen Headbutt, Foul Play, just better coverage options to where maybe there's going to be more situations where Midday, Midnight Lycanroc will be usable, instead of just kind of falling flat a lot and relying on very specific gimmicks or something like that. So there we go, guys. That's my video talking about the potential rebalance of all the Lycanroc forms, since it seems like something, if Dusk Lycanroc is so special, why were Midday and Midnight just kind of left to die in the metagame of the 7th generation? Also, shoutouts to Anthony, because he made the thumbnail and kind of came up with a video idea. So, see, fans are asking for this. I'm not just trying to put out the same stupid content over and over again. This is a different video than the other ones I've done, so it's definitely a fresh idea. And unfortunately, because of like Accelerock and Tough Claws, I'm pretty sure that the special attacker Dream is dead on Dusk Lycanroc. That would have been cool if it was just like a 125 special attacker with 110 or something on the speed. Rock special attacks aren't really the best, but it'd still be kind of interesting to see just a change of pace with the whole Lycanroc theme, and then just push it over 500 base stat total. You know, give it the little buff to Midday Lycanroc, make Midnight tankier, and get it around 505, 510. Dusk Lycanroc would be able to do the same thing because of that with the hybridization, and then maybe there would be some more usability. But there we go, guys. That's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.